الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد تقبل الله منا ومنكم
درود بر محمد و آل محمد चला है करबला को कारवां आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चला है करबला को कारवां आहिस्ता आहिस्ता अलम की छा रही हैं बदलियां आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चला है करबला को अली अकबर जवानी की कसम मुड़कर जरा देखो अली अकबर जवानी की कसम मुड़कर जरा देखो चली आती है पीछे पीछे माँ आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चला है करबला को। पेदर की कुव्वते बर्दाश्त का था ध्यान अकबर को। बड़ी मुश्किल से ली थी हिजकियाँ आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चला है करबला को। किनारे नहर के अब्बास आए तो सलामी को। किनारे नहर के अब्बास आए तो सलामी को। निकल आई थी सारी मछलियाँ आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चला है करबला को। बदन सब चूर था कासिम का दमे मुर्दम। बदन सब चूर था कासिम का दमे मुर्दम। बड़ी मुश्किल से ली अंगड़ाइयाँ आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चला है करबला को कारवां। आहिस्ता आहिस्ता अलम की छा रही हैं बदलियाँ आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चला है करबला को। दरूद बर मोहम्मद वाले
सलाम थी इमाम ज़मान अलैहिस्सलाम बुरंतर नारे सलवात सल्ली अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद व अज्जल फरजहुम। जाए शबीर अब कहाँ अम्मा, जाए शबीर अब कहाँ अम्मा, अब मिलेगी कहाँ अम्मा अम्मा, अब मिलेगी कहाँ अम्मा अम्मा। रहने देते नहीं मदीने में, मुझ पे होती हैं सख्तियाँ अम्मा। रोज़े आशूर आएंगी रन में, आपके बाग में ख़िज़ां अम्मा। आपकी बेटियों के शानों में बांधी जाएंगी रीस्मा अम्मा। आपकी गोद में हो सर मेरा तेग खातिल हो जब रवां अम्मा तुमको ज़ैनब बताएगी एक दिन पुश्त पे ज़ख्म के नशा अम्मा आखरी है सलाम ये मेरा अब ना आऊँगा फिर यहाँ अम्मा माँ की तुरबत पे बोले शायबाखर मुझको रुख़सत दो मेहरबा अम्मा जाए शबीर अब कहाँ अम्मा अब मिलेगी कहाँ अम्मा अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
Before I request Sheikh Khalid to come up, I have some poetry I would like to recite. Suratu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah for the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. May my soul be ransomed for the one whose great-grandfather made the skies weep blood. Never did I think that towards someone who I never met I would have deep love. Even to reach a station anywhere near that of his companions is a victory to me. Any trial in life I take with honor, but hearing his sacrifice I want to cry until I bleed. The moment is near when the Quran will be put upon a spear. Anyone who comes close verses of the cave they will hear. The same body that was cradled in the arms of Rasulullah is the same body decimated on the plains of Karbala. He was devastated after the death of Al-Mujtaba. Now he is despondent seeing the severed hands of the cub of Asadullah. Ya Abbas, he was Dua Ya Ali, a request to Allah for a son that will accompany his Hussein until he is Shaheed. A newborn baby that wouldn't open his eyes until being placed in the arms of his brother he began to see the face of his master, which his life was created to serve and protect. Displayed brotherhood like no other could. It was truly his father's loyalty he would reflect. Abu Abdullah had thousands of supporters in Kufa, but he only wrote one letter to his dear childhood friend. In his old and senile age, he donned armor, mounted his horse, and rushed to Karbala to fight for his Imam until the end. As our Prophet said, the white Arab is not superior to the black Arab, and vice versa. As Muslims, we uphold these standards. John the Christian slave is an example of how we are all one under Imam Hussein's banner. Abu Abdullah was an embodiment of our Lord's mercy. It is never too late to come to the right path. Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi taught us to choose the truth over status and position, even if it means facing the enemy's wrath. Abu Abdullah missed his grandfather, so he asked Allah for a son that would remind him of him. A face that shone bright on the battlefield, but when he had fallen, Hussein's world had turned dim. The spear that pierced the chest of Ali Akbar also pierced the heart of his beloved father. After losing his sons, brothers, and companions, his faith still didn't falter. His final hope in humanity was that maybe they would spare a baby who was filled with thirst. Even that hope was shattered when they butchered Ali Asghar's neck and he flapped his arms like a bird. Imam Hussein took the blood of the infant and wiped it on his face, for if it spilled on the earth, it would never grow sustenance, and if he threw it to the sky, it would never again rain. Whenever you drink water or eat your food, remember that it is Ali Asghar's sadaqah to you. How will he return this tiny body to its mother? How will he show the severed neck to his sister? A small girl who would pace back and forth out of worry with feet full of blisters. The Princess of Peace, so small, sweet, and innocent, will be bleeding from her ears. She will only think of her Baba because she is missing him. By her Baba, she was most endeared. Abu Abdullah asked for a source of tranquility from Allah, and the Lord gave him Sakina. Soon she will cry, "O Father, now whose chest will I sleep on?" Being chained up and paraded through the streets of Sham, Asham, Asham, Asham was the reply of our fourth Imam. When he was asked what was the most difficult moment he endured at Karbala, being shackled with the kids and the uncovered daughters of Al-Mustafa. Peace be upon the daughter of Zahra, she was a mountain of patience in the face of the enemy, the torchbearer to shed light of what happened to the Holy Family. The cursed killer thought he could break her with grief. He asked, "So what did you see?" The reply shook all those who were present and those to come. "I saw nothing but beauty." Salawat Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. I would like now to request Sheikh Khalid Jamil to come to the minbar.
Brothers, if we can please all come a little closer. People are coming in. Rahimallah man dhakara al-qa'ima min ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, whenever the name Al-Qa'im is mentioned, what does that mean? The one who is what? Standing attention. The one who is up, the one who is waiting, the one who is qa'imun bil amr, meaning the one who has the authority in his hand. Whenever that name is mentioned, out of respect, we should all stand up. Rahimallah man dhakara al-qa'ima min ali Muhammad. Everyone. Santum. Now come forward, please. Barakallah bikum jami'an. Don't be shy to come close. Ahsantum. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله فاز من اعتصم بحبلكم أمن من لجأ إلى حصنكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما يا غائبا وعيون الخلق تنتظر متى يطل على آفاقنا القمر. This is a poem for Imam Al-Mahdi عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. It says يا غائبا, O you who is absent, وعيون الخلق تنتظر, and the eyes of creation is waiting. متى يطل على آفاقنا القمر, when will the moon shine over our horizon? وأين نلقاك هل وصل فيجمعنا, and where do we meet you? Is there a day when we will connect? وهل بلقياك يوما ينتهي السفر, and when we meet you يا ابن الحسن, will our trip end? Will that be it? يا غائبا حاضرا في القلب مسكنه, O you who was absent but is ever present within our hearts. فدا لوجهك من غابوا ومن حضروا, may everybody who has ever lived and who will ever live be sacrificed for you. يا ابن رسول الله يا من له قد البيت قد حنت ستائره. O you who even the house in Mecca, the house of Allah, the sata'ir of that house, the covering is waiting for him. Then he says, سألت مكة لما طفت كعبتها. I ask Mecca whenever I go and I do tawaf in Mecca, the Kaaba. أين الذي بحماه يسعد البشر. Where is the one? Through him we shall find happiness. العدل في سيفه والنور في يده والحق في فمه والنصر والظفر. The adl is through his sword, and the haqq comes through him, and our happiness and our trials shall end through him. Then he says, يا من به تطلب الثارات دامية بكربلاء وما قد أبرم الخطر. O you who through which the vengeance of Karbala shall be taken. حيث الحسين ترض الخيل أضلعه. Allahu Akbar. On the day when Hussein was trampled, was stampeded by the horses. والنار بين خيام الطهر تستعر. And fire and the fire is taken over the tents of the purified ones. وزينب بين أجلاء موزعة تمشي ومن حولها أطفالها ذعروا. And Zainab is walking between bodies and limbs, running around while her orphans are running behind her. تمشي ومن خلفها أطفالها ذعروا. لاذت بمصرعه حيرى مولهة ودمعها فوق نحر السبط ينهمر. What does she do in that position? She went to his body. La ilaha illallah ya Zainab. Her and her children. وَدَمْعُهَا فَوْقَ نَحْرِ السِّبْطِ يَنْهَمِرُ. Weeping over the throat of Imam Hussein. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. والعاقبة للمتقين. Continuing with the concept of sha'air, of rituals. The Quran says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, ذَلِكَ وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرُ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. That and whosoever magnifies the rituals of Allah, it is certainly a sign of their God conscientiousness. Or let's say the God conscientiousness of their heart. Sorry, I had a hard time with that word. The God fearing of their heart. ذَلِكَ وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Let's try to understand. First and foremost, we read yesterday, or the day prior to, we read that there are 4 verses that mention sha'air. Most of them are about Hajj, or all of them are about Hajj, right? The one that we said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُحِلُّوا شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ. O you who believe, do not violate the sanctity of Allah's rituals. وَلَا الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ. Nor the forbidden month. How many months do we have that are forbidden? Ahsantum, mashallah, you guys are paying attention. Those 4 forbidden months, we said that the Arabs made those 4 months forbidden upon them to wage war during those 4 months. Those 4 months were sacred months to the Arabs, to the pre-Islamic Arabs, what we call the Jahiliyyah. When Islam came, Islam honored those ones. Islam kept them. Not only did Islam keep them, rather it made them a part of its religion. There are certain things that existed in Arabia pre-Islam that Islam adopted. One of them being these sha'air, these 4 months. We said the word sha'air. The word sha'air means مظاهر العبادة وتقاليدها وممارساتها, the manifestation of worship, its traditions and its practices. We also said that these mabahir, these taqaleed, so on and so forth, this manifestation takes on a physical part. Rather, they are two sides of one coin. Though on the one side you have the spiritual belief. On the other side you have the physical action. It's as if what you have within you, how do I know that the individual in front of me is a Muslim or a Hindu or a Sikh or a Buddhist or a Christian or a Jew or a non-believer? Through how they carry themselves, through their self-identity. How do they identify themselves to the world? That is called their actions. Their actions should represent their internal, their spirit. Otherwise, what do we call them? Munafiqeen. If their actions and their internals are opposite, they contradict, they are considered hypocrites. Rather, in the narrations, the Prophet says that he who's alaniyah, who is public face, is different than his innards, than his private being. That is a munafiq. Therefore, a part of our identity is to represent Islam. Now, that is very simple for the sister. She wears a hijab. She's known in the street as a Muslim. What about you? Your hijab is not the cover of the veil. Your hijab is how you carry yourself in the public. Who you are in the public. When people should see you, they should say, Rahimallah Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq, for he raised his Shia. Are we that type? If we're not, we have to start questioning ourselves. Why and why not? If the Imam is sitting here with us, how would he view us? Would he view us as his Shia or not? Now keep in mind that Imam Al-Mahdi views us. One of the scholars, he says that in the dream, one of his students had a dream. In that dream, now we're not going to use the dream to explain our life. That's not what we're doing. But we're using it as a form of getting a point across, let's say. In the dream, this young guy who is a Sayyid, who is a religious individual, he says, in the dream, I saw someone knock on my door. He says, when I went to open the door, I saw a Sayyid wearing the imamah. I said, what can I help you with, Sayyid? He says, my name is Sayyid Mahdi, and I have no place to go for the night. Can I sleep over? So he said, yes, Sayyidna, but just let me go inside and clean the house. This is in the dream. He says, when I went back to clean the house, I saw my house is full of clutter and mess. So I began cleaning. All the while, I shut the door and I left Sayyid Mahdi at the doorstep. He says, then I came back running. I saw him walking away. When I went after him, I heard him say, Ilahi. I knocked on my Shi'a's door one after one, and all of them say, give me a second, let me clean my house. Now this is a dream, but it explains to you how we are on the inside. The house is his inside, his spirit. His spirit is full of sin. It's full of clutter. It's full of mess. Honestly, are we honestly able to accept the Imam into our homes today? I don't mean our physical homes. I mean our spiritual homes. Is our home a place where the Imam can come and rest? Am I on the same level spiritually with the Imam? Do I follow the same path of the Imam? Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. We see in the narration that one of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi went out looking for the Imam. He asked around, he says, where is Amir al-Mu'mineen? They told him he left the Medina. Walk after him. Of course, back then, usually the cities are surrounded by a gate, by a, what do you call it? Like a wall, the city walls. So he says, I saw the foot trails of the Imam, so I followed the Imam. When I got to the Imam, I saw that it was the Imam and Salman al-Muhammadi. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I approached Salman and I said, Salman, how did you get next to the Imam? Did the Imam perform a miracle to bring you here? He said, no, why do you ask? He says, because I only saw one trail. I saw one set of footsteps. Salman looks and he says, Ya Aba Dhar, do you expect me to put my foot in a place that Ali ibn Abi Talib didn't place his foot? Meaning Salman used to walk, even his foot What does the Prophet say to Salman? Says, Ya Salman, if Ali was to seek a valley by himself, and the whole world was to seek a valley, seek the valley that Ali seeks. Salman took this word literally, that wherever Amir al-Mu'mineen would step, Salman wouldn't step next to it. He would step right behind it, right on top of his footstep. That is a Shia. Are we on that level? Have we reached that level? Can we reach that level? Inshallah, we all do. Inshallah, we will strive to do. Nonetheless, we'll go back to our point. So the Quran here says that these 4 months, okay, these are forbidden months. These 4 months are Muharram, Rajab, Dhul Qa'dah, wa Dhul Hajjah. These 4 months are the forbidden months. These 4 forbidden months are months that Allah says do not violate those sanctities. That is for Hajj. Now, that's one ritual. What about the other rituals? Ilahi, how do I understand what the other rituals are? Especially, for example, we have rituals. Rituals are divided into 3 types. Zamani, timely. Zamani and makani, which is time and place, okay, and places. For example, the ones that are timely are Salatul Jum'ah. They come once a week. That's the sha'ira min sha'ar Allah. Salatul Jum'ah. Time-wise, that's Salatul Jum'ah. Place and time, Maqamu Ibrahim. The Quran says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nas lalladhi bi Bakkata mubaraka. The first place that has, the first home that has been placed for people, the home of worship, lalladhi bi Bakka, the one in Bakka, mubarakan, wa hudan lil alamin, blessed and guidance for mankind. What's the blessings within there? Fihi ayatum bayinat. Within it are what? Ayat, are signs. Now, ritual can mean, sha'a'ir can mean sign and can mean ritual. A sign is also a ritual, and a ritual is a sign. Fihi ayatum bayinatum maqamu Ibrahim. What's maqamu Ibrahim? The place where Ibrahim stood. It's a simple stone that has 2 footprints on it. Then lastly, we have time and place, which is Hajj. Hajj has a specific ordinate time and a specific place, which is in Mecca. Can you perform Hajj here? No. Can you perform Hajj whenever you want, even if you live in Mecca? No. What do we call that? We call it Umrah. We no longer call it Hajj. So these 3 types of rituals. So then I come and I say, Ilahi, how can I find out these? Sure, you've sent me the Quran, but the Quran claims that it's what? Tibyanu li kulli shay. It's a revelation for everything. But I don't know where it says in the Quran that Salatul Dhuhr is 4 rak'ah. Nowhere does it tell me in the Quran that Salatul Maghrib is 3 rak'ah or Salatul Subh is 2 rak'ah. Therefore, when we ask, we need to ask, Ilahi, where? We'll go back to the Quran itself. The Quran says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. Whatever the Prophet has given you, take from him. وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُ. And whatever he tells you to refrain from, refrain. Therefore, who commands? Who explains to us? Now, I can come back and I say, Ilahi, you also said in the Quran, I am but a human like you. However, yuha ilay. Right? By the way, that yuha ilay is an attribute. It's a distinction. That while I might be like you, basharum mithlakum, I am like you, a human. However, yuha ilay. Meaning what? Meaning that I might be like you, but there is a distinction. That distinction is I am able to receive the message of Allah. Can anybody here receive the message of Allah? Absolutely not. We don't have the level, the conduit, so to speak, to receive that message, while the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam does. So the verse says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Then the completion of the verse is very important. Brothers and sisters, if you want to know the verse, read its end, how it ends. Listen to what it says. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. And fear Allah. Be conscientious of Allah. What does being God conscientious mean? Meaning that have Allah on the back of your mind. Fear Him. Know what is happening around you. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Fear Allah, for Allah has severe torment. Allah, why do you threaten? He says, because I already gave you a command. If you do not follow that command, then what? Then you will see my torment. What is that command? مَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. Now, we said, but what if you say, وَمَا أَنَا إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيْهِ. The Quran also answers this. What does the Quran say? وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ. Answer the finish the verse. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى. He does not speak out of his own will or want or whims. Rather, he is a wahi, he is a revelation. Sallallahu alayhi ya Rasulullah. Brothers and sisters, on a side note, everyone tries to please Allah, especially on Judgment Day. On the day when a man runs away from his wife, his brother, his parents, right? On a day when an individual, when a non-believer or a mujrim wishes to sacrifice his wife, his brother, his children, his nation, everybody. وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا ثُمَّ Allahu Akbar. He wants to sacrifice everybody to save himself. Everyone. On that day, what does Allah say? Allah says, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى يَا Muhammad. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. On that day, Allah says, O Muhammad, we shall give you until you're pleased. What do you want? Do you see the azamah? We know in the narrations that everybody says, myself, except for the Prophet. He says, ummati. Only the Prophet? No, brothers. Fatima Zahra says, Shi'ati. The narration says that Fatima Zahra picks her Shia on judgment day the way a bird picks the good seeds from the bad seeds. Amir al-Mu'mineen. يَوْمَ يُدْعَى كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. On the day where every group of people are called by their imam. And then we have Safinatun Najah. هو السفينة النجاة كلنا سفن النجاة ولكن سفينة الحسين أوسع وفي لجج البحار أسرع. We are all the arcs of salvation. However, the ark of Hussein is أوسع. It's greater, it's larger. وفي لجج البحار أسرع. And through those storms, it is faster. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. So on Judgment Day, Allah says, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ. Who is that ضمير going back to Ya Muhammad? وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. Look at the grand stature of the Prophet on that day. Allahu Akbar. That is the one who the Quran says, وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Therefore, إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Let's read this verse. What does this verse say? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات. He is the one who has revealed to you, O Muhammad, the book. Some of its verses are definitive. منه آيات محكمات هن الكتاب. هن الكتاب وأخر متشابهات. While others, these are the mothers of the book. These verses are the foundation. And others are unspecified, meaning they're elusive. And others are elusive or unspecified. As for those whose hearts are deviant, the deviant individuals, they follow the unspecified of the unspecified parts, seeking dissent and seeking to derive and interpretation, meaning to their own whims. But none knows its interpretation. None knows its interpretation except for Allah and those who are firmly rooted in knowledge. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. Now here there is a difference of opinion. إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, meaning that Allah and those, brothers, if you can leave your phones and focus on the lecture, I would very much appreciate that. Put your phones away and focus on the lecture. Barakallah bikum jami'an. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There's no one knows its interpretation except for Allah and those who are rasikhun, who are deeply rooted in knowledge. That's one. Another one says, illallah, and it ends. That only Allah knows its interpretation. Then the verse continues, says, وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ آمَنَّا بِهِ. And those who are deeply rooted in knowledge say that we believe in it. However, we have another verse that assists the first meaning of this verse. What is that? وَمَا يَمَسَّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ. Mutahharun. Why not mutatahhirun? Mutahharun means those who have been purified, meaning the purification is external upon them. Mutatahhirun are those who purify themselves. Me and you are mutatahhirun. When we want to go to do salat, we have to go do wudu. Mutahharun are those who Allah has purified. Who are the ones who Allah has purified? إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهِ. MashaAllah. I don't think there's a Shi'i that doesn't know this verse. لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. These are your imams. Your imams, Allah says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهِ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمْ. Not يُذْهِبُكُمْ عَنْ. لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسِ. Meaning that rijs is not even on your path. Allah did not even place the rijs on your path. وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. And He has purified you. He has purified you. تَطْهِيرًا. Thoroughly purified you. Therefore, when you come, if you've established that they have been purified, and you come and you read, وَمَا يَمَسَّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ, the mutahharun are whom? الَّذِينَ أَذْهَبَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمَ الرِّجْسِ. Oh, then we come and we read, فِي بُيُوتٍ أَذِنَ اللَّهُ أَن تُرْفَعَ وَيُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ. In homes where Allah has given the authority for them to be exalted, exonerated, elevated. وَيُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ يُسَبِّحُونَ لَهُ. These homes, people, the men and women in there, they worship their Allah. غُدُوًّا وَعَشِيًّا, day and night. These are homes that Allah has allowed to be elevated. So therefore, when I want to understand the sha'a'ir, when I want to understand the Quran, who do I go through? Let's read the ayah. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الذِّكْرَ لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ. O Muhammad, we have sent upon you the dhikr, this remembrance, this Quran, this book. Why? لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ, so that you reveal to the people مَا نُزِّلَ إِلَيْهِمْ, what has been sent to them. وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, and hoping that they might remember. Let's break this verse apart. وَأَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ, we have sent down, we have descended onto you الذِّكْر. This Quran is a remembrance. What does dhikr mean? Dhikr comes from the word remembrance in Arabic, so that they might remember. Dhikr is from thinking. And the end of the ayah, what did we say? If you want to understand the ayah properly, go to its end. The end of the ayah says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, meaning that this is a dhikr that they remember so that they might think and interpret, they might think and understand. We have sent to you, Ya Muhammad, this dhikr. لِتُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ. Not, the Quran did not say we sent to them so that they can understand. No. It says لِتُبَيِّنَ, so that you can understand. So that you can explain to the people what has been sent onto them. While this work has been sent onto you, it was sent for them. But can they understand it? Not 100%. Some of it they can. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ. We have sent this book to you as an Arabic book so that you might understand it. So some of it you can understand. However, the interior of it you cannot. That's why وَمَا يَمَسَّهُ إِلَّا Why يَمَس? Why not يَلْمِس? What is the difference between mes wa lamas? Mes is spiritual. Lamas is physical. The Quran says, وَإِذَا أَصَابَهُمْ مَسٌ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. And if they have had mess, if they have been touched by the devil, by the demons. Touched here, mess means what? Non-physical. So when the Quran says, وَمَا يَمَسَّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ, meaning what? Meaning that nobody can understand it, can touch the interior meaning of it, unless it is those who are purified. Then it says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. We find that the Quran says always and over, use your mind, use your mind. أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ قُفَالُهَا. Do they not think, or have they placed locks upon their hearts? أَفَلَا تَتَدَبَّرُونَ. Do you not consider, do you not think? قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Travel on this earth and see, think of what happened to the nations that have come before you. The Quran wants you to use your brain, wants you to use your logic, wants you to use your insight. However, there are things we can't understand. Those that we cannot understand, we come to the ones who have been purified. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi is the one that explains, the one that interprets, the one that delivers. Now, the Prophet says, أُوتِيتُ بِالْقُرْآنِ وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ. I have been given the Quran and its equivalent to it. What is that? That is the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Now, the Quran tells us, مَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. What the Prophet tells you, take. What the Prophet brings to you, take. And the Prophet came to you and he says, إِنِّي تَارِكٌ فِيكُمُ الثَّقَلَيْنِ. I have placed within you the two weights. Kitabullah wa itrati ahl bayti. The book of Allah and my progeny, my family. And that they shall not separate until they come to me on Judgment Day. In another narration, the Prophet says, أَعْلَمَكُمْ عَلِي أَتْقَاكُمْ عَلِي. The best of you is Ali. The most knowledgeable of you is Ali. The bravest of you is Ali. أَنَا مَدِينَةُ الْعِلْمِ وَعَلِيٌّ بَابُهَا. I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gates. Therefore, whoever wants the knowledge, let them come through the gates. Therefore, when we want to, after the Prophet, when we want to understand our religion, we go through where? Madinatu ilmi Rasulullah. The Ahlul Bayt, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. The Quran says, O Muhammad, tell them, every prophet in the Quran mentioned has says, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِنَّمَا أَجْرِيَ عَلَى اللَّهِ. I ask nothing of you in return. I want no payment from you. My ajr comes from Allah. There is only one prophet who has been commanded to ask for something in return. He says, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ في القربى لا إله إلا الله يا رسول الله. He says, I ask nothing of you. Be kind to my family after me. However, we see that our history was not kind. The second he died, they came to Amir al-Mu'mineen. They say, Ya Ali, tell Fatima to cry either the day or the night. We can't handle her crying day and night. She used to sit by a tree. They went and they cut that tree down, huh? They said, we can't handle her crying. So he built a house for her called Baytul Ahzan, the house of sorrow, just outside of Medina, so she could go there and cry. Imagine, brothers and sisters, she was not allowed to cry in her own home. In her own home, not even next in her home, they wouldn't let her cry. Was that enough? No. They came to Amir al-Mu'mineen, bi-abi wa ummi. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, لكني صبرت وفي العين قضاء وفي الحلق شجا. I was patient even though I had a stick in my eye. That's a saying in Arabic, you know, when you have qada in your eye, meaning that you have sand, debris in your eye. وفي الحلق شجا, something bitter in my tongue. لكني صبر لكني أسففت مع القوم إذ أسفوا وطرت معهم إذ طاروا. I was patient for the people, let them be, as long as the Muslims were not harmed. Then we come to Imam al-Hasan bi-abi wa ummi. Imam al-Hasan, same thing. Imam al-Hasan, he was scared even within his own people. He would wear his battle armor even when he was sitting with his companions. He was attacked by his companions. That's Imam al-Hasan. We don't know the significance of Imam al-Hasan in all honesty. Was it not for Imam al-Hasan, we would not have Imam al-Hussein. Were it not for the patience and perseverance of Imam al-Hasan, there would be no Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Imam al-Hasan had the capability and the foresight to know to expose Bani Umayyah. During the time of Imam al-Hasan, the media center for Bani Umayyah convinced the people that Ali and his sons were corrupt. They say in one narration, a man came to Medina and he saw Imam al-Hasan riding a mule. So he said to them, who is this man? He's a very good looking man. They said, you don't know him? He said, no. They said, that is Al-Hasan ibn Ali. He went to him, he insulted him. And then he insulted Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam al-Hasan told him, I think you're a stranger. He said, yes. He says, where do you come from? He says, I come from Sham. He said, I thought so. I thought you came from Sham. Then he said to him, Ya hada, if you wish, I will take you to our house. And I will show you where Jibreel and Mikael used to come down. Ya hada, are you hungry so that we might feed you? Are you in need so that we might assist you? What need do you have of us? Do you need a place to stay? The man says, I was shocked. I expected a different answer. So he said to him, Yabna Rasulullah. Look at the difference. He went from Yabna Ali, from Ya Hasan to Yabna Rasulullah. I was told differently about you. He says, I know what you have been told about me. Ya Hada, do you need anything from me? He said, no, Yabna Rasulullah, accept my apology. He said, you're forgiven. Be on your way. That is Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hasan, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, he made a treaty with Muawiyah in order to show the world who Muawiyah was. In order to show the world who Yazid was, to the point that by the time Yazid came, the people knew who they were. To the point that when Yazid came, people says, nobody needs to explain to us who Yazid is. We do not want Yazid. That's why Ahlul Kufa wrote to Imam al-Hussein, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. They said, Yabna Rasulullah, do not let Yazid take over. Imam al-Hussein answered their call. However, he sent to them Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil was 34 years old. The Imam says to them, I have sent to you my cousin and the one that I trust the most from within my family. But Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam ended up deciding to go towards Karbala. Ardu Karbin wa Bala. On the 3rd of Muharram is when they entered Karbala. Now some narrations say a bit later. However, most likely it was the 3rd of Muharram. Brothers and sisters, when they entered Karbala, Imam al-Hussein was on the back of his horse. He slept for a couple of seconds. His eyes, he dozed off, let's say, for a couple of seconds. When he came to, he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Next to him was Ali al-Akbar. Ali al-Akbar, he says, Father, why did you do istirja'? Did something happen? He says, Bunay, I dozed off for a moment and I had a dream. And in the dream, I heard somebody say, Al-qawm yasirun wal-manaya tasiru qalfahum. The people are walking and death comes walking after them. He says, Ya Aba, awalasna ala al-haq. Are we not the ones on the truth? He says, Bala ya bunay. He says, Abba, then we do not care if death meets us or we meet death. If we fall upon death or death falls upon us. He says, you are correct, my son. Barakallahu bik. Aliyul Akbar, Allahu Akbar ya Ali. They say they continued. The horse got to a land and it stopped moving. Maymoon dhul janah. Nonetheless, the horse of Imam al-Hussein got to an area and it stopped. It wouldn't go any further. He looked at his companions. He says, give me another horse. He rode that second horse. Same things. They say 4 horses he changed. None of the horses would move. So then he looked and he says, what land is this? They said, Mawlai, this is Nainawa. He says, is there another name? They said, Mawlai, this is Nawawis. He says, is there another name? They say, Mawlai, this is Qadisiyya. He says, is there another name? They said, Mawlai, some call it Karbala. He says, Bala, Bala, hiya ardu karbin wa bala. Yes, yes, it is the land of tragedy and tribulation. He says, here we land. Here you guys set your tents. Brothers and sisters, when Imam Hussein got to this land, he was comfortable. He had water. He had everything he wanted. However, Al-Hurr Riyahi and his platoon weren't. They were almost died of starvation and of thirst. So when an Imam saw that, he told them wash their horses and feed their men. Imagine, he washed the horses and fed the men, knowing that in about a few days, his children will die of thirst. They say when Al-Hurr saw this, the Imam wanted to leave. He says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I cannot let you leave. So the Imam moved forward a bit. And then he says, this is where you stop, Ya ibn Rasulullah. I cannot let you leave or return. This is where you stand. By the time the 7th day came, they were all out of water. At that time, Shimr alayhi la'natullah and Umar ibn Sa'd were there. So they stopped the Imam from reaching the water for 3 days, to the point where the kids were screaming, Ya Am, Ya Abbas, Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst, Ya Am. We cannot handle this thirst. That's when the women started coming to Imam al-Hussein and saying, Aba Abdullah, we have babies, we have children. Al-Rabab came to al-Hussein and she said, Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, khudur radi'akum. Take your infant. I can't do anything for him anymore. I have no more water. I cannot feed him, Ya Aba Abdullah. This is the situation that Aba Abdullah was left in until he was martyred. Bi Abi wa Ummi. That's why they say when they carried his head on top of the spear, he started reciting, and they thought that the signs of Raqim and Ahlul Kahf were something amazing. La Aba Abdullah. Rather, your head on top of a spear is amazing. Hence we see the poet, the beginning of the poem that I narrated, the poet, he says, وَزَيْنَبٌ بَيْنَ أَشْلَاءٍ مُوَزَّعَةٍ تَمْشِي وَمِنْ خَلْفِهَا أَطْفَالُهَا ذُعِرُوا. Zainab is walking between these bodies and these limbs, her and her orphans. Another poem answers him. He's talking as if it's a dialogue between Sukayna and Zainab alayha salam. He says, Sikna ya amma khal nija'de. Sikna, oh my niece, let us go to your father. Let us try to help him out. Maybe he has some final breaths. ما بيني وبينك نسند بلشن يفك عينه وننجده. Maybe he can open his eyes, and we ask him what to do. We are surrounded by the enemy, Ya Hussein, and we are only women left, Ya Aba Abdullah. This is the situation that Ahlul Bayt were left in. Therefore, when we want to think of rituals, when we want to think of sha'a'ir, the grandest of our sha'a'ir is Imam al-Hussein, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Were it not for Imam al-Hussein, we would not be here today. The Imam al-Hussein was the decisive differentiation between Shia and Sunnis, between the followers and the non-followers. Not only Shia and Sunni, but he became the decision between the kings and the path of Ahlul Bayt. He is the one that differentiated between the emperors and Ahlul Bayt. That is why when we sit here, when someone asks, why do we remember Hussein? Salawatullahi wasalamu alayhi, because he is our path to the Prophet. The Prophet says, Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein, physically, spiritually, mentally, the path. Islam began with the Prophet and it found its way through Imam Hussein. Imagine, brothers and sisters, imagine that during the time of Imam Hussein, nobody knew who the Prophet was. Nobody knew how the Prophet prayed. Nobody knew who the true Sahaba were of the Prophet. Everybody was intermingled until Imam al-Hussein came. When Imam al-Hussein was killed, that's when everybody turned. That's when everybody noticed the difference. That's why they say in Sham, Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, and I will end with this inshallah. Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, a companion of the Prophet, he said, I entered Damascus and I saw a city full of rivers and greenery. He says, but I also saw something strange. I saw that they had zina hanging and women dancing and beating drums and everybody rejoicing as if they had a Eid. He says, as I'm walking, I saw an old man with the Quran in hand crying. So I said to him, Ya Hajj, Ya Shaykh, how odd is your city? I don't know what's stranger, you crying or them having fun. He says, Ya Hada, you seem like you're a stranger. He says, I am. He says, who are you? He says, I am Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, a companion of the Prophet Muhammad. I have seen him and listened to him. So the man starts beating on his head and he says, Ya Sahl, ma a'jabaka an la tantabiq as-samawat ala al-ard. How strange is it that the heavens haven't fallen onto the earth? He said, why? He says, Ya Sahl, they have killed Al-Husayn ibn Fatima ibn Rasulullah. He says, Al-Imam Al-Husayn has been killed and these people are rejoicing? He said, yes. He says, and what happened now? He says, Ya Sahl, they are bringing the women of Hussein. He says, from where? He said, Min Bab as-Sa'a, the door of the clock. He says, I went running to there and I see the mahamil, the camels coming. And the first camel had a long spear. On the top of a spear was a face resembling the Prophet, unlike anyone I have ever seen. He says, as they were walking, as they entered, I went to what I thought was a prisoner. So I said to her, Ya Jariya. Jariya means a prisoner, means someone who doesn't have a father, means someone who doesn't have a family, means someone who has been taken as a concubine, as a prisoner. Azza alayya Aba Abdullah. He says, Ya Jariya, man anti? She says, Ana Sukayna bint al-Husayn. Sukayna, the favorite daughter of Imam Hussein, was seen as a prisoner. She says, and who are you? He says, Sayyidati, Mawlati, I am Sahl ibn Sa'd. I am a companion of your grandfathers. What can I do for you? She said, Ya Sahl, tell the carrier of the head of my father to remove the head from in between us, the women. For we have khuzina, we cannot stand all of these men looking at us, Ya Sahl. He says, I went to him and I said to him, I will give you everything that I have, 50 gold dinars, just remove the head. So he took it and he moved them. He moved the heads a little bit forward, but the second they entered the city, he brought the heads back. That was the situation of the Ahlul Bayt, brothers and sisters. That is the ritual that we live. The ritual that we relive day in and day out is a ritual of Al-Husayn ibn Ali, bi abi wa ummi Aba Abdullah. Because that is who we identify. On the day, يَوْمَ يُدْعَى كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ, on the day when everybody's called by the Imam, I want to be called by the Shia of Hussein. I want to be my Shafi' on the judgment day, Hussein. That's why I stand here. Let alone the history, let alone the honor, let alone the freedom. I want to be on the path of truly free men. Men who stand and died for the rights of others, not for their personal selves. I ask Allah بحق الحسين الوجيه وجده وأبيه وأمه وأخيه والتسعة المعصومين من بنيه أن يفرج عنا، أن يفرج عن الحجة ابن الحسن فرجا عاجلا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب من ذلك. Brothers and sisters, Sayyid Haydar al-Hilli in his poem, he says, مَأْتَ التَّصَبُّرُ بِانْتِظَارِكَ. He says, our patients are wearing thin. They have died waiting for you, Ibn al-Hasan. Then he says, your Shia are left weak. I say, Sayyid Haydar, you said that back in 1800s, in the end of the 1800s. What if you came today and you saw the situation of your Shia? The Shia today are being killed simply for being Shia. They're being killed simply because their name is Ali and Hussein and Zahra. All of that, and the Imam is waiting for us, brothers and sisters. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not waiting for him. He's waiting for us. We need to elevate ourselves to the level of the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. I ask Allah through these days, inshallah, by the blessings of Ahlul Bayt, that we are elevated to that level. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وأرواح من مات على الهدى والإيمان رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers and sisters, don't forget that there is a bonfire today after, inshallah, after the majlis and the matam, there is a bonfire. Ya Ali.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. You start first, you'll start.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya. Come here, come here. All. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, ey مفرهزات، ای مفرهزات، ای ممد حیات، ای حسین عزیز، ای طریق نجات، ای طریق نجات، ای تمنای سائل حسین، ربنا وارحمنا بالحسین، السلام ای شه کربلا، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله. من از کودکی عاشقت بودم، من از کودکی عاشقت بودم، قبولم نما گرچه آلودم. یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین، یا حسین یا حسین ای تو رؤیای دلخواه من، ای تو رؤیای دلخواه من، اول و پایان راه من. یا حسین ای تنها علت لا اله الا الله من، لا اله الا الله من. یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین. السلام علی شاه کرب و بلا، ای شهید غریب ای اسیر بلا، ای سر بالای نیزه ها حسین، پیکر بین صحرا رها حسین، پیکر بین صحرا رها. یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا یا حسین 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 یا حسین. ای مفرح ذات، ای مفرح ذات، ای ممد حیات، ای حسین عزیز، ای طریق نجات. السلام ای شاه کربلا، السلام ای شاه کربلا، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، یا ابا عبدالله، یا ابا عبدالله الحسین، با عبدالله الحسین. یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین. هم طبیب منی، هم حبیب منی، تو قرار دل بی شکیب منی، تو قرار دل بی شکیب منی. یا حسین 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 یا حسین. حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر، حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر، حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر. حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر المؤمنین، حیدر امیر المؤمنین. سر کوی بلند فریاد کردم، سر کوی بلند فریاد کردم، علی شیر خدا را یاد کردم، علی شیر خدا را یاد کردم. سر کوی بلند فریاد کردم. علی شیر خدا، علی شیر خدا یا شاه مردان، علی شیر خدا یا شاه مردان، دل ناشاد ما را شاد گردان، دل ناشاد ما را شاد گردان. حیدر حیدر یا حیدر، حیدر یا حیدر، حیدر حیدر یا علی شیر خدا دردم دوا کن، علی شیر خدا دردم دوا کن، مناجات مرا پیش خدا کن، مناجات مرا پیش خدا کن. حیدر حیدر یا حیدر حیدر یا حیدر، حیدر یا حیدر، حیدر حیدر یا حیدر یا حیدر، حیدر حیدر یا حیدر، حیدر یا زهرا 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 सब्र दे मालिक नू सैण लैला के इज़्न जे दे मेते मैं सब्र दी सांझ चे अकबर दे सीने जो सांग हटावा करबला दिया करबला दिया करबला दिया करबला दिया आखे माता से मेरी माथे एहसान करी तेरे कई लड़दा रवि तेरे टुकड़े मुताबिक बदनी आए मेरे वीर हुसैन दिसावा करबला दिया करबला दिया करबला दिया करबला दिया पुत्रा दिया लाशा दे टुकड़े रैया लब दिया बिच सहरावा करबला दिया करबला दिया सब मिलके करबला दिया जदों कैदी होके लंघे मक्तल चों भैण ज़ैनब कीता लाशा वल मावा नाम कहण किते रुक ना जावण सावा करबला दिया करबला दिया करबला दिया करबला दिया रोके हर माए हो कहंदी रही शाह